Storyhouse Childless takes place on Saturday the 23rd and Sunday the 24th of September at the Garrett Theatre in Chester in the UK. It's 2 days of events designed to explore living without children to build community, meet new people, and hear other people's personal stories. And we're delighted to be there over the weekend and recording the Full Stop podcast live on stage on the 24th. And yes, Michael is joining us all the way from Australia in person. So this is a big event for us. Now, Storyhouse Live gave us a weekend pass to give away in a competition, and loads of you entered this. We were completely overwhelmed by entries, and thank you to everyone who took part and answered our question, which we hope wasn't too tricky. Sandra McNichol is our winner. Congratulations, Sandra. She's coming all the way over from Spain. It's amazing. And she's a great supporter of the podcast and really loves what we do. And she also loves World Childless Week and all the events that go on in our community. So we're delighted that she's got the opportunity to come and see us and to meet lots of you too. So well done, Sandra. Thank you to everyone who entered. And we look forward to seeing you at Chester. If you would like to talk anything else about Chester, or you want to find out what we're getting up to, then please do check out our website and come and join the Full Stop community. It's our private space open to everyone who identifies as childless. It's diverse, it's safe, it's supportive and inclusive. In there, we share resources, ask questions, celebrate wins, attend all our podcast events live, so when we record it, you can come and be in our audience as well. It's just amazing and we love it, but then we're biased and we'd love to have you there with us as well. And you can do a bit more planning around your time at Chester if you're coming along with us. And if you're not, then you can find out more about it, and we'll share probably some live stuff in there when we're actually all together. So you'll get to see all of that first. So yes, thank you very much to everyone who entered.
We wish to acknowledge the Dharawal people, the traditional custodians of the land that some of this podcast was produced on. And we pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and those emerging.
Giving yourself the permission to say no. What did someone say last night on our Hive call? No is a sentence. No is a whole sentence. I like that.
Welcome to the Full Stop Podcast, a childless community podcast with Sarah Lawrence, Berenice Smith and me, Michael Hughes. Now sadly, Berenice wasn't able to be with us on this episode. She was taking a much needed break in an area with no internet access. And if this is your first time here, our podcast delves into the many facets that make up the childless identity, as well as what is going on in the wider childless community. And our hope is that with all our special guests, we can help you craft your own narrative and what it means to be part of the childless community. And we also aim to educate those who are not childless, so they can begin to understand and support those in their lives who may be facing life without children. Now, in this episode, we are going to talk to Cecilia and Janine from Denmark, and we're going to talk about friendship, community, and giving ourselves permission. Now, a warning. There is a mention of pregnancy, loss and stillbirth, so please, go gently. So today we're going to talk about friendship and community, which obviously is something really important for us in the childless community. But I'm going to shut up and I'm going to ask Cecilia and Janine, who are you and what do you do?
Want to go first, Cecilia?
Okay, I can go first. Yeah, thanks, Janine. So my name is Cecilia Rebild, and I'm Danish. I live near Copenhagen, and I'm childless not by choice, of course. I used to work a lot. I used to work in corporate and working with HR and change. And the last couple of years, I've transitioned into having my own company, and I work with. I actually thought about that. I work within the liminal space, I could say, because I help people in their transitions. Transitioning from if they've been let go of and have to find a new job or in a new leadership position and so in these kind of transitions. And Janine and I, we met each other via the online B course led by Karen Enfield back in 2020. So we'll come back a bit more to that and what we do around that as well. So Janine, maybe you will continue. I think you have a special greeting as well. Maybe we've talked about that.
Yes, this was for Berenice. So, tēnā koutou katoa, greetings to all. Ko auraki te maunga, ko wai makariri te awa, te waipounamu te moana, no ototahi, toku papakainga, ko Janine, aho, tihei, Māori ora. So I'm Janine and I'm from Aotearoa, New Zealand, and it's our practice really in New Zealand to give what we call a mihi in Māori, and that's to introduce ourselves, but it's in connection with our mountain. I just gave out the mountain that I grew up near, the river that I grew up near, the sea, and where I grew up, and obviously my name, because that's very important in New Zealand society to show where we come from and our connections. And also I put something in the community and Berenice particularly liked it, so I wanted to say that for her. So yeah, I'm Janine, also obviously childless, not by choice. I kind of regard myself though as coming to this place pretty much by circumstance, actually. I spent the best part of my reproductive years single, about 11 years on my own, just not meeting the right person. And then I met my Danish partner, who I'm still with, in my early 40s, and we suffered 3 miscarriages in a row over a period of 12 months. Pretty brutal. We decided not to continue because it seemed to be age related. I was almost 44 when I had the last miscarriage. And I felt like I was in the middle of mummy land, where I felt quite unsupported and not around a lot of empathy for my situation. And everyone I knew had children or were pregnant. And both of us love to travel. So we thought, well, what can we do now that we are childless and can't have children? We would like to travel. So we took a bit of a, looking back on it, I think a bit of a drastic measure and moved to the other side of the world. And that is to Denmark, where my partner's from. And something that was meant to be like, 2, 3, maybe 4 years has ended up being 10 years. As these things can happen. And so we moved in 2012. I didn't really deal with my childlessness, I don't think, although I knew it was sort of there, various things would get me upset. And then I just stumbled across an advertisement for the online bee, as Cecilia said, back in, I think it was the end of 19. And we started it in 2020. Online bee is a year-long course, Finding Your Plan B, that Jodie Day created in Gateway Woman, as it was back then, and it was facilitated wonderfully by Karen. Anyway, so we did that for a year, and I think it was online. We were all based in Europe, but I think Cecilia and I were the only ones that lived in the same city. So we were really lucky in that respect, and managed to finally meet in the summer of that year. COVID lockdowns, etc. And we've been friends ever since. And at the end of the online bee, so a year later, in early 21, we thought we'd like to create a little community here in Denmark to support other childless women in Denmark. And we've managed to do that. We've got a little group going. It was a slow burner for sure. And one picnic, in fact, that we organised to celebrate, I think, what's the final day of World Childless Week? Is it We Are Worthy Day? Is it? Mm. Yeah. We organised the wee picnic, advertised quite widely, and it was only Cecilia and I. But things have happened.
But 1 year late. 1 year late. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So 1 year later, yes.
1 year later, we actually organised the picnic again, and we were 6 people, I think.
Yeah. So it's happening, and it's a nice mixture of, childless by circumstance, childless not by choice, older woman, younger woman, and also pretty much half international and half Danish woman. So that's me for now.
Wow, I mean, that's such a change, isn't it? Going from that must have been soul destroying, that first one. It's just us. But I'm curious, these meetups, I talk to a lot of women, and it's hard, isn't it, to bond over childlessness, because we've all got such different backgrounds, different stories, albeit we're in the same community. How did you two connect, out of curiosity? What was it that brought you together? Because geographically, we could all live in the same city and be potentially childless, couldn't we? But what was the spark that really got you two interested in your friendship, do you feel?
Yeah, we reflected upon that as well, because that one of my reflections is also that just because we're childless it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to become friends. As you say as well, Sarah. So I think for me, friendship is also about feeling a connection with somebody else, and I instantly felt a connection with Janine when both online but also meeting her face to face. We used to travel a lot, so the whole travel thing was one of the things that connected me with Janine as well. And then I think also we have a shared interest in writing. So I think that's part of it as well.
We try and encourage each other to get on with. We've got respective writing projects underway, and both of us have been quite slack and trying to encourage each other to get on with it.
But both of us have actually had something published in Danish media. So I had something published in a national media, national newspaper about. It was called missing. It was a whole topic about missing, and I wrote about missing having children, and so getting the connections about that. And Janine, you had a piece published in the international newspaper in Denmark. So I think the whole writing thing and exploring how we can connect about writing, and so that's part of it. I think that's part of the answer.
And also, to be honest, right up until the online bee, so we moved here in 2012. I think my last miscarriage was in 2010. So it's a long time ago now, but I had never been open about my childlessness. As I wrote in the article for the international paper here, I felt like I was very complicit in the taboo around it, but the whole shrouding it all in a sort of shamed kind of silence, that I was part of that, perpetuating that, but also of course understanding how hard it is for us to speak about this openly. But when it came to the Childless Week in that year of the Online Bee 2020, and Cecilia wrote this piece in the international, in a big Danish paper. She also translated it into English, and for the first time ever on Facebook, I shared it and said that this is, an article from my friend. I don't know, what did I say about her childlessness, an experience shared by me, or something like this. I can't remember now. And that was the first kind of outing, is that what we call it, of being childless. And it got such a response that people had no idea what had gone on behind the scenes for me. They thought I was just swanning around Europe on a motorbike, living the life of Riley. It was a good life, but the reason why I was in Denmark was because I had, lost these pregnancies and couldn't face being around mothers and whatnot, but new mothers, my friends. So, and that has started, and from there on in, I've just shared a lot of stuff on Facebook, articles that I think really sum up and advocating for our seat at the table, basically, particularly around the workplace, and then around aging and how society perceives us. I'm really wanting to help change the narrative on how society sees us, childless people. And I thank Cecilia for that. That was. I was inspired. She's written this thing, I put it out, and then as she said, I wrote my own thing, which then I also put out there as well. And I've just got some amazing support from friends, both childless and a lot of mothers, actually, from very mother friends from some really unexpected places, and opening up some really good conversation with a lot of my mother friends that I never would have. So the writing being inspired by Cecilia. I think the inspiration and motivation and the guts to do this, and knowing that I had Cecilia and the rest of what do we call it? The online hive, we call it. A group of that were doing the year-long course together. I had that all behind me, so that supporting me, so that if I got any pushback or any nasty comments, that I knew where I could go to find support. So, and I've been writing ever since. So I really, really thank Cecilia for inspiring me on that one.
Yeah, and I think I wouldn't have been able to publish these pieces if I hadn't been part of the online bee, and if we hadn't talked about these things, Janine. So I think so the trust, and from you and also from the others in the online bee course, and because it's also getting closer to each other and understanding each other's stories, and really I thought about it this morning as well. It's about really feeling safe with somebody else, and I really feel safe with you, Janine.
Likewise.
Yeah.
And I think too, we didn't mention that Cecilia and I did the online course mainly for the running of 2020, but the course, and this is a great thing, the course is so dense and full of such great material to absorb and take in, and exercises to do, that our little hive have stuck together. So we still meet every month. And we're now in the 4th year of the online bee. So we meet every month, and one of us or two of us volunteer to host a session, and we take ourselves back through it. But quite often life gets in amongst it all, and we just deal with particular difficulties or things that are happening in people's lives. And then actually, I forgot to say, we met recently in Reading in the UK for a weekend. Some of the women in the hive that could make it, which was absolutely special. It was very cool. So that has been wonderful, and I don't know for you, Cecilia, but for me, I'm sure these are friends for life. And I am moving back to Australia. I was saying before we started recording, we plan to move back after the northern summer, so quite soon. And I think one of the biggest things, and I have a bit of grief and a bit of about this massive move, and I think one of the biggest things is losing the ability to meet up with the hive that living in Europe, allows, and meeting up with Cecilia, obviously, too.
But it will be a good reason for us to come down under.
Yes, the next one's down under. And we actually reached out to the hive in relation to this podcast recording this morning about what they have got out of childless friendships, and they really reinforce a lot of the belonging, the comfort that they feel, and just being immediately understood, cheering each other along quite a lot, the showing of compassion to each other, being able to really, really take deep dives into conversations, literally without children interrupting or hijacking the conversation, or friendships that are really, really deep that we might not necessarily have with friends that we've even known for decades. I know that I feel like that. And quite often quite existential questions come up, and particularly, about aging. We'll talk a lot about aging with our children and how to plan for that. And yeah.
I don't want to break the thread because this is quite a beautiful conversation, but I know there's a lot of people going to be saying, what is an online bee?
So at one point there was this online course that was hosted by Jodie Day and Karen Enfield. It was hosted through the Gateway Women, and it was only for women who were childless, not by choice. And it was a whole year course with different topics each month, and we would have exercises and reading materials, and then we would meet once a month to discuss these things. Did I cover it more or less, Janine?
Yeah, and I think one of the beautiful things, and also another connection with Cecilia, one of the beautiful things that the course does is take you through letting go. I think they call it the letting go session, a letting go ceremony where the hive was broken up into smaller groups, and we online wrote letters to our children that we never had, and then with each other we read them out to each other, and then ceremoniously we burnt them in a candle, and we've all done different things with the ashes from our letters. And Cecilia and I happened to be actually on the same in the same group, so we sort of witnessed that, and which I thought was very, very powerful. I remember when I was writing, I wrote screeds to my 3 unborn children. She's not going to make us read these out, is she? And and she did, but I think it was a really, really Karen, it is, we did read them out, and as one of us later said, you know, she could really see the mother in all of us when we read out our letters. So Cecilia and I have been through that together, and I think if I'm not wrong, I think we were the second to last cohort that was offered this course, and I don't think I know for a fact it's not offered anymore, and I think all of us in the hive think it's a real shame. It was just one of the most transformative experiences that we could ever have gone through for that year, and then as a result creating these lifelong relationships or friendships. And anyone listening out there who's in a position, I would strongly advise that some sort of similar course be created, because it is just
and I think one of, just to add, sorry,
there you go.
I think one of the real strengths was that it was just not just a weekend or 2 days or something, but we kept connecting over a full year, and so in that way we could come back and connect and develop and come back and so on. I think that was really one of the, and I agree. When I talk about the ceremony, about the letting go ceremony, I get all emotional now. I think it was very, very strong. It was one of, but so that part, but also that it was through a whole year was very good, I think. Yeah. So yeah.
I think we all feel very privileged that we had that opportunity, actually.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because what I'm struck by is it sounds as though that course facilitated a depth then to your relationship, not just in terms of just, sort of talking at a surface level. It was, I guess you had to witness each other's grief in that moment. And yes. I wonder as well whether that informed your article, Cecilia, about missing, because that doesn't sound like a surface article to me. That sounds like quite a deep sort of, as you say, sort of existential quality to it.
Yes, I think absolutely did, because and I reread it this morning, and I did think it informed it, and I think the whole part about, and I ended by talking about, I don't want to make a happy ending in the story either about missing, because kind of right into about that, then we could expect that we then talk about this happy life, that we travel more or have a fantastic career or something spectacular, because then we can do that. But then I talk into that, but we are still missing, but we are moving and touching each other's lives by being with others and being open about how it is, and maybe breaking some more taboos. And then I and it now starts being I don't want to, I start sounding like I want to brag, and I don't want to brag, it sounds strange, but the last part was that I don't only miss, but I also give, because we give this depth to each other, that we break taboos. So that was, and I'm not explaining it very well in English, but it's just about, is that we're not just missing out, but we don't necessarily need to have a spectacular life, but we are just, if we can give something else by being there for others and having that depth, as you talk about, Sarah, then for me that's really something that's existential, for example. And I think maybe touching upon that, and also reading it, I think when we started we called it This Unknown Place, our Instagram profile, and the whole thing about our meetups, and so we started it, and then I suddenly lost the hearing on one ear overnight, and it was that's another loss. And I think there's disenfranchised grief connected to that as well, because a lot of people don't understand that.
Plus, it's invisible.
It's also invisible, and it's about reliving the grief again. But I was just thinking that having again this group, the online B group, were more they understood, and they were there. So there's really this depth in this group, which means that I have real friends around Europe, and also when I connect with people like here, I feel I have friends around the world, and that's very special for me.
How was it then to start your own group? Because obviously you're talking about the impact that you had as part of a group that was run by someone else, but now you've got your own group that you both run. Is that very different? How do you get that same, I guess, vibe if those people aren't part of the hive, if that makes sense?
Yeah, we have talked about that before, haven't we? That in some ways, I mean, I'll speak for myself. I feel on quite a different level from a lot of, well, it's a small group, but from the other women. And again, just really privileged to have been able to dive into things the way that we have over that year. And I'm sort of encouraging the other woman, please get on Lighthouse or Gateway or whatever, because you can access this depth of conversation and the support that's there. And I just wish, for them that they would engage more with the childless community. But of course, it's up to them and their own time and stuff. But I do feel on a bit of a different level. Do you, Cecilia? I mean, I guess we've got things to offer. We've got a lot of resources and a lot of recommendations to make. You should read this or da-da-da. And just being there for support in our WhatsApp group. It's not that active, actually.
No, and I think that's maybe the challenge as well, that we don't offer the same thing. We just offer meetups.
Yeah.
And maybe they don't at the moment they don't necessarily see the need and for this kind of process either. So it's also being there for what they need. And I think we talked a bit about that, and I don't know whether that's part of it as well. I mean, we as Danes are sometimes seen as very reserved and very introvert. So it's sometimes very difficult also to get the conversation started at all. I don't know. So because we talked a bit about it also at one of the meetups that we were actually a bit struck that we're not more people that want to attend, and
there is a private Facebook group in Denmark, and there's 200 members or something crazy.
Yeah, yes.
And we advertise what we're doing, and no one takes it up. And obviously they've sought out the group, to join. There must be some sort of need there, but we're trying to nut it out yesterday. What is it in Denmark that creates this situation? And Cecilia and an older Danish woman have tried to nut it out as well, haven't you? What's peculiar about Denmark, that they won't come forward, even though they've obviously seen a need by joining the Facebook group.
Yeah, we haven't figured out why. Sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
That's okay. Sorry, I cut you off. You were going to say something.
No, I just said we haven't really figured out and I know we've also talked with other people who started up groups, and it takes a long time to get the groups going, and so maybe that's just part of it, and maybe we haven't been good enough at sharing what's going on and how it's helpful and so on, and maybe it's also about, back to maybe we don't just connect with everybody, and it's just because we're childless doesn't necessarily mean that we feel we can connect. So yeah.
No, well, I'll be honest. I think you've been very hard on yourselves. I obviously, as a counsellor, I talk to lots of people about their childlessness. And I do think actually, there's a couple of levels of things that go on for people. It's number one, I've got to accept that I am part of this community, but it's also, I think, as well, a little bit of the school of the hard knocks, isn't it? Because we have to learn by experience who can be trusted with our feelings and who can't. And I'm yet to meet anybody that's not had a bit of a battering and a bit of a bruising by trusting someone that potentially couldn't handle what they were sharing. So I think you've been quite hard on yourself, because it's not like rocking up for a dog walking club, is it? There's levels of stuff that you have to deal with before you go, do you know what, actually, I will go out with these people. I will try and connect.
Yeah. And it's very true, I think, because we also talked about that we've also lost, both of us talked about yesterday, that we've lost friends that we had that are childless, and that they, or at least I sometimes feel that maybe it's because they can't, then when we start sharing our grief or about childlessness, they can't cope with it somehow, as you say, Sarah. So there's so many levels of grief, of identity in this. There are many layers into this.
Yeah, it's tough. What sort of stuff do you get up to? What do you do when you're doing these meetups?
Well, around summer, before everyone buggers off for their summer holiday, because Denmark sort of comes to a close over summer, we try and organise something before everyone goes. Talking of which, Cecilia, we need to get cracking on that one. And then Christmas is really big in Denmark, so which is lovely. You know, we try and organise a Christmas gluk. Last year we weren't quite so successful, again because it's so big and everyone's so busy with, you know, Christmas arrangements and whatever. But yeah, just general open space meetings, picnics or in cafes or something like that. It's pretty low key, Sarah, at the moment.
And we've had the. I mean, you've been very good at putting photos at our Instagram profile, but that's not so much about the meetup. But actually, a lot of people also from around here follow what's happening there as well. But
actually, when we first started this unknown place, I can't remember, connected with a Swedish woman that was doing some stuff. And was interested to come. Do you remember? She was interested to come to Copenhagen and actually meet us and be here for one of our meetups. But I think pandemic and that got in the way. And then we also had a Zoom with a great Finnish woman just out of Helsinki who was quite active in her community. And she gave us a lot of tips actually about what she had been doing and what we could be looking at. And, so there was an idea to make it more of a Nordic thing also, but yeah, with a emphasis on Denmark for us. But it has been a slow moving train, but and we've had things going on, you know, Cecilia with her hearing loss, and I've had various things going on as well. You know what it's like.
I think I had at least planned to do more than we did, or I did, because of I hasn't had to deal with that grief or that loss as well before being able to do something new about this or more about this.
It's a lot, isn't it? I'm really struck by your, although you're sort of saying, well, this has happened. I'm really struck by the fact that you're still turning up. You're still doing it. We're still here, people. We're still here if you need us. So although I hear what you're saying about, well, you know, the first year, you know, we organised this thing and we didn't have anybody. The next year you had 6. So, and the next year, presumably, you have more and more and more. So it feels as though the consistency is the real key part, because you're both still turning up, doing it, even though you're saying, well, you know, we're not sure what people are looking for. But I think, you know, in terms of, you mentioned, forgive me, I think it might have been Janine mentioned sort of people can be a little bit introverted about this. What would be your tips for people? Because it can be quite daunting, can't it, coming along to these groups? You know, as I was saying, it's not an easy process. What tips would you give people? Because obviously you're still rocking up, you're still doing it. What would you advise them if they were like, oh, you know, I'm feeling a bit tentative about it? What would you say?
I think maybe just show up, and that you don't have to say anything. Just be there and be like a guest and observe and find out what's happening. You don't have to say anything at the first or second meetup, and so just
come and be, be, and just meet some other people. That's difficult for me, Sarah. I mean, I listening to last week's episode with Karen. I mean, I'm like Michael. I'm an extrovert. You know, if something's being organised for a bunch of childless women, you know, not by choice, I'm there. You know, and I travel a lot, and everywhere I've gone, I've connected with so many people in our community. I even invited myself to stay with someone in Melbourne for 3 or 4 nights that I'd never met before, apart from on Zoom during lockdown. And as Michael knows, I was a bit nervous. I was like, "Oh, I'm going up. I've never met this woman before, and what if it doesn't work?" And Michael was very good at calming me down, and it was absolutely fantastic, you know. And we had quite a laugh about our childlessness. Can you believe? I hope I'm not being offensive to anyone listening to this, but it was really nice to be in a position with someone where we could actually have a bit of a laugh and take the piss out of ourselves a wee bit. You know, the normal tropes that get flung at childless women. That was Penny Rabbit, so I think you've had on the podcast. We had a bit of a laugh. But so it's a bit difficult for me to answer that because it's just so not me. But all I could say was just come and be. As Cecilia said, you don't need to say anything. You don't need to share anything. We don't even need to talk about it if that makes you more comfortable. We just talk about everyday stuff. I don't know. What would you say to your clients, Sarah, if one of your...
But you know what? I love that. I love what Cecilia said. Just give yourself permission just to turn up, really, isn't it? As it, you know, we talked about this last time, but I am quite introverted. So, you know, at the beginning, it took a lot for me to turn up to these things. And, you know, I'd be the shadow in the corner going, right, I'm just looking. A little bit wary, a little bit unsure. But I think it is that first tentative step. Just give yourself permission just to, if I go for 5 minutes, that's a win. If I stick around for half an hour, that's an even bigger win, isn't it? But even just going is a big deal, I'd say. And, you know, perhaps for the introverts like myself, perhaps be a little bit more Janine, you know, rock up.
Like Michael said last week, take a risk.
Yeah, just put yourself out there.
You can just take a risk because it's going to be rewarding.
Yeah.
And not, as Cecilia said, not everyone is going to be our cup of tea just because we're childless, but eventually you'll find someone. And the sense of belonging and as you guys keep saying, of not being alone, it's the healing factor in all this. You know, having a community and even just one mate that you can text at work or something. It's like, oh God, you know, baby shower or, you know, whatever at work. Because I think, you know, that's what we've all struggled with, right, for so long. And I struggled with it for 10 odd years, almost 9 years, of just thinking I was alone in all of this. And I took this drastic step of buggering off to the other side of the world. You know, if I'd known there was some sort of community in Sydney that I could have relied on, I might never have come here. But then I wouldn't have met.
I'm glad you didn't know. I'm glad you didn't know.
Yeah.
So we have a question from the audience.
Yes.
And the question is, in relation to your childlessness lived experience, what one piece of advice would you give your younger selves to help you weather the storm of childlessness?
Find people like you, and we're everywhere.
Yeah.
There's a lot of us, so you will get through it. I mean, I know that's kind of might sound trite to someone that's going through the worst of it. I don't know, Cecilia, what was...
Yeah, I could say the same thing about you will get through it. I would say that to my younger self as well, but also that just be yourself and be in the grief, because I think some of the things I reflected upon was I tried so hard to be happy while I was going through the grief. I tried so hard to make an effort to to do something extra because I didn't have children, or I don't have children. So just, and it's, I mean, in some way it's like very, very simple, very cliche. Just be who you are, but be with what there is. Endure the grief, but the grief will always be there, but there'll be laughter and there'll be good times again. Also find people who understand, who have different lives, who have children. I also very much enjoy that I have friends who have children. We had a friend's child staying during COVID because her parents lived in Melbourne at that time. So she stayed with us for 2 months because the school in Denmark closed down. So that became a very long answer, but be true to yourself with the grief, but also that you will get through it. And yeah, sorry for the very long answer.
I love that. I love that. It's about giving yourself permission again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not to be who you're not, I guess, and making yourself feel 10 times more uncomfortable by putting yourself in positions that you don't really want to be in.
Oh yeah, I've done a lot of avoiding positions I don't want to be in, for sure. And you know, it's been really easy for me coming to Denmark, and I'm wondering about now returning to Australia, in that when I came here, I could completely hit the reset button. So I just sought out other childless friends or child-free friends. You know, I deliberately moved away from, so I haven't really had to deal with it in the last 10 years, to be honest. Not too much anyway. But yeah, giving yourself the permission to say no. What did someone say last night in our Hive call? No is a sentence. No is a whole sentence. I like that. To not turn up to things if you're not able to. I think also for me, going through the storm of childlessness, I think actually, I mean, it takes a while, and it certainly took me years and years to get there, and I'm not saying to rush it or anything, but I think one of the biggest things that helped me get through my shitstorm or get to the place that I'm at now was actually opening up about my childlessness. It's one of the most healing and empowering things I could have done. And again, that was through the article that I shared, Cecily's article, and then what happened thereafter. And we all we all have our time frames in that, and for some people it may never be appropriate, but for me it's just been so empowering. And getting this, I think one of my biggest aspects of the grief was not being understood, acknowledged, or recognized, or heard, seen, all those things that are so important for us. And in opening up, I just got some amazing responses from parent friends out there. Also quite a lot of silences, but enough responses to, I sort of feel like this, monkey was lifted off my back, and that I could start living an authentic life, actually. For years and years. What are you doing in Denmark? Oh, Anna's father's very elderly, so we thought it was time to come home and be with him. Had nothing to do with it. Although that was a nice side bonus kind of thing. But now I'm very open about it. And I'm very open about it at work. And, a young thing that a young colleague at work that I was open with, she revealed that she had a stillborn at 4 or 5 months. And she never ever talks about it. And none of her friends are interested whatsoever. So we had this, massive connection. She's young, every possibility she'll go on to have children, but she had a very similar experience. And it's only by being open about it that, you give permission for other people to be open about it as well, and start talking about their experiences. And I don't know if it's you, Cecilia, but for me, because I'd spent so many years with this hidden kind of secret that I never talked about, I just found it really, really healing, and it's really pushed me along in that kind of journey, for the want of a better word, into the place that I am now.
Yeah, so can I continue?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think I so much agree about the openness, and also because I actually was quite open with my friends in the beginning, but it also helped me when I started saying, saying no when people were talking too much about their children themselves, and saying we need to talk about something else. And I was thinking when you were talking also that something else, I mean, being open, but also using we all have creativity, and using our creativity in different ways. I mean, Janine and I are talking about the writing, but other people have been using singing or drawing or whatever. And I think for me, at least, starting using hidden or forgotten ways of being creative have helped me a lot. I had never thought that would help me, but that creativity helps me a lot. And I think I would advise a younger self to find those creative sides again.
Yeah, true. The community blows me away, actually. I think there's so much talent in our community, you know. You just see some amazing stuff, and yeah, I would really encourage that as well. And I, you know, I've always had ideas about writing ever since I was very young, and it's only recently through all of this that I've actually started writing.
So one of the things we'd like to be able to do is, if you two have those links to those articles that you wrote, if they're still available, please let us have those, and we'll put those in the show notes as well, so that people who are listening to this podcast can actually read your stuff. That'll be great.
And it's so good that you guys are creating more community, more out there for us to all come together.
Well, that's one of the things that we're not to take it away from you two, but that's one of the things that we're really excited about is listening to your explanations of what being part of a community has done for you. Just reinforces to us that, you know, it's important, because not every community you're going to sort of resonate with. So the more communities are out there, the more it can be. And we would hope to attract more guys into the group, because we probably I don't know what the right words are. My simple brain is saying that we are terrible at making connections. But at the same time, I can tell you that in the childless men's community, it is all the time there are guys just saying, this is the best thing that's ever happened. I really needed this place. And it just goes to show that take that risk and be part of something.
Absolutely.
As my mum used, sorry, Janine, but as my mum used to say, and I'm not quite sure if this is appropriate, but she used to say, well, what's the problem? Is it life-threatening? Really? You know, when we're scared of making decisions, you know, like, really? Is it life-threatening? I don't know if that's appropriate, but that's what I keep in my mind all the time when I take risks. I just go, no, it's not. So I'm going to take a risk. Some of them paid off, by the way, but there you go.
I'm glad you caveated that. Oh, wow. What have you guys got coming up then for your meetup groups? Have you got any plans? What have you got anything that you're going to be organising? What does it look like going forward?
Well,
so I think,
you go.
So I think actually we're going to have a summer event happening very soon that we need to plan. And then I think we need to have a good talk through about how we're going to do it going forward, because we're going to miss Janine here in our northern hemisphere very soon. So we need to figure out how we're then going to do it. Because I think I know that my friendship with Janine will continue, but I think as a strength, or one of the things I enjoy also with our community here in Denmark, is that it's not only Danish, but it's a mixed community of Danes and internationals and so on. And I think that's a lot of what you've also ensured that happens, Janine. So I need to figure a way out of doing that, because I'm not sure that at least you can't be face to face going forward when you move down under.
No,
so we actually need to sit together, I think, and I would need your help, Janine, and how to plan it going forward. but also I mean, I think it's so great that you're making this new community, Michael, Sarah, and Berenice, because I think we need another community. I was thinking about what I mean for all of us. In the end, it's all about relations. It's and we need to have more relations, and where we can connect with each other in different ways, and where we feel safe. So, and yeah. So
I can
not so
see
much.
I can see an Aussie Danish group happening here. I can see that you two are going to bridge the 14,000 miles or whatever it is.
Yes,
International.
we'll make something friendship. Yeah, something. Something not invented yet. We'll make it possible for you, Janine, to jump back and forth between Australia and Denmark.
Well, Anne and I are trying to work out how can we do a 6-month thing, 6 months in Australia, 6 months in the Danish summer, because Denmark is wonderful over summer. You haven't quite worked it out. I think you need to be a gazillionaire, don't you, to have 2 houses. And yeah, I don't know how we're going to go moving forward. And I just had a thought, actually. The reason why the group here in Denmark has grown, it's all word of mouth. It's people talking to people. Say, oh, you might like, it's knowing other childless women. And one at the moment is with a single childless colleague, and she's sort of sussing out whether it's, by choice or she has grief around that, and she may bring her along to the picnic if so. So,
and yeah, I would love that we had a stronger group being part of your new community here, because somehow I think we would feel more part of this kind of community somehow. So that would, having a group here would be good as well. That they could connect online as well, and face to face as well. So yeah.
So it's time to change then. So is this going to be one big bash then in summer? Is it going to be like a huge thing that you're going to organise? Because as you say, it's changing after that, isn't it? So sounds like a good excuse for a big bash.
Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be time, but I wouldn't mind organising something just before I leave as well. Might be 2 big bashes, if we haven't actually thought about it.
Fair enough.
and you're spurring us to think about it, actually, so it's good.
Very good.
Yeah. I think what Cecilia and I both feel too is that we've kind of did I say Cecilia? Did I say Sarah? What Cecilia and I are both thinking about is that we're both quite a ways down or through with our childless grief, and we're also looking for communities that are spaces within our communities where we can be a bit lighter and just do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And really have, bring in us, because I think we've all got great senses of humor, and really have a laugh about things, and get back that joie de vivre, that we've lost. And because I feel that I was saying to Cecilia, and I think she reminded me recently, when I was down under at home recently, catching up with people, one friend in particular took me aside and sort of said, took me by the shoulder and said, you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders. Just let it go, And that took me aback a little bit. And I thought, yeah. There are a lot of things to laugh about out there. And I would quite like to sort of have that amongst our community as well, for those in that space. While we are dealing with serious issues, etc. But I just, looking for the joy, really looking for the joy at the moment.
But I think that's another part of the community, though, because when you mentioned earlier that when you met Penny, can I just say, I told you so, didn't I? When you met Penny.
Yes, I had to send Michael a wee text. What am I doing? But yes, you did tell me so. Quite right.
So, yeah. Oh, sorry, I had to get that in. But again, we're having a laugh about it. I think, that part of the community is also that you feel safe to have that laugh.
Exactly.
You feel safe that I know that this will be received the way I intended it. And so, yeah, I do I really resonate with that. And I just hope I don't go too far sometimes. But anyway, I'll deal with that.
Not from my experience. No. And can I just say that, when in traveling around the world and meeting up with people, that I had a wonderful afternoon with Michael and Vicky. It was very special. And again, just so easy, wasn't it, Michael? So comfortable, safe.
It was.
Trust,
and
lots of trust there. Yeah.
And not to take away from you two, but that's one thing that I love. That's what. So I took that risk to just reach out to people and say, yeah, let's get together. It's the best thing we've ever done, by far. Excuse me. It would have to have happened at least once in a show, but it's the best thing I've done so far because the risk paid off. And when someone says to you, I've never, and I've had this a few times, I've never spoke to anyone about this. I've actually had some people say to me they've never spoken to their partner about what they're talking to me about. That is, and again, being part of a community understands each other. That is special. And so, yeah, even though it's scary, it can be so, so beautiful.
Really lovely and very, very rewarding, I think. I have a friend, a good friend who's a mother in New Zealand that I stayed with for several days, and that was really lovely. She was very curious about this online community that we all have, and she's in rural New Zealand, but isolated, not having a great time of it, and she was really envious of us. She wanted to be able to get online and reach out to people that she has, things in common with, and get some real understanding and depth at the receiving end. She was really envious that I had this at my fingertips.
Yeah, we've just had a comment pop up to say that it's lovely to see the depth of connection between you two, and I would have to second that.
Thank you. Yeah, we've been lucky. I mean, as I say, we were the only ones in the same city in the hive, and we just connected. So, yeah, universe looking out there.
But I really second the whole thing about laughter and lightness, and because of course there needs to be space for our grief and our individual differences and so on, but that we can make a bit of fun about. And we don't have to be so scared of what we say, but we can have a little fun and Michael, when you tease Janine, it's that's part of it as well, that we can because otherwise it becomes too serious and we become too sad somehow. Or we keep of course I think I will always carry the grief with me somehow, but sometimes we can also find good ways of laughing about the whole thing and laughing about, having good laughs together, and so
laugh about life, bloody life.
Yeah,
and I have absolutely no doubts that I'm 57 soon, and I'm sure I'm going to be, friends are soon going to start becoming grandmothers and whatnot, grandparents, and I'm sure I'm not going to be dealing with that very well. So there'll be space, there needs to be space to go back into that as well. But I think, a bit of laughter. And I think that's where you and I are at, Cecilia. When we meet, we have a bit of a laugh, and as well as creating space for discussing difficult stuff.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's so true, isn't it? We talk about the journey, but it's kind of, that is part of it, isn't it? The grief is always going to be there, but it kind of shrinks, and then you've got room to have a laugh, to connect with people. I think that's such an important thing to draw out, because I think when you're at the beginning of it and everything is really difficult and hard and dark, you can lose sight of the fact that at some point down the track, I'm going to be able to laugh again. And I love that you two have that, you have that depth of connection that you built, and now you can go, But you know what? There is light in this as well as the dark. There is plenty of light, and it sounds like your group is going to start to reflect that, because you're like, I think we need a bit more fun. I think we need some laughs. We need something extra. I love that.
Yeah, it was interesting in Reading when the Hive met in real life. It was a lot lighter, and we did have quite a lot of laughs, and yeah.
I mean, that's great too, because you're also giving, I guess, giving people some inspiration and hope that, okay, I know what they've been through, I get it, and look at them. Wow. So you don't have to say you'll get through it. They can actually witness for themselves that, oh, wow, this could be me one day. Or Absolutely. They may choose to go, I'm going to be just like Janine one day. Also,
yeah, and I mean, in terms of, I have no big thing about leaving a legacy. I just have an idea that we're specks of dust and we come for a time which is quite short in the arc of time, and then we leave. But if there was going to be any legacy, it's somehow mentoring women behind, or people behind us, that yes, we can, you do get through this and you will find laughter again. And that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in recovering a bit of old Janine, not that I will ever be the same again. None of us ever will, but I think I'm richer in some ways for it. But I still would like, a bit of the silliness and the giggles and the pranks, cheekiness. I was always known as being very cheeky, and I sort of feel like I might have lost it a wee bit.
Yeah, I can understand that. So before we wrap up, what are you two got in the future plans? So aside from the Childless group, and we know you're coming to Australia, Janine, what about you, Cecilia? Not that I'm cutting you off, Janine.
No.
So I have plans for 2 writing projects. One about my great grandmother who went to India to mission and got to know Gandhi very, very closely, and how this whole story trickled down in our family line. So she married an Indian, and my grandmother married an English, and so on and so on. So I want to write about that. I've done a few pieces so far. And then I've also volunteered for helping people who have been lost their hearing or their hearing abilities, because they actually do some of the same things as we do within our community. They think that in this community that they need equals, both professionals but also equals who have tried losing their hearing suddenly. So I'll do that going forward, and then I hope to travel a lot more again. We've had a bit of pause on that the last couple of years, but traveling to Australia to visit Janine, travel other places to visit some of the people I met through this. That's some of the plans. And we'll see what happens. And the second book project, not to forget, is about living a normal life as a childless woman. And I haven't seen any books written in Danish yet. So, and I went to a writing course a couple of weeks back at Karen Bliksen, Isak Dinesen's home in Denmark. She wrote The African Farm, or Out of Africa. And I wrote some scenes for that. So yeah, some writing projects and some voluntary projects. Cool. And then some travel.
Well, let us know when you have things moving along, because we'd love to support you and in our way help you get more exposure for your writing projects if you need it. So please let us know. What about you, Janine?
Well, there with this monumental move, I have a writing project which is it's a kind of like a memoir-ish thing, but I just want to create a collection of little vignettes, I think, I've just had some amazing experiences. One reason or another, just being at the right place at the right time. And I kind of want to talk about them. With the thing of childlessness always being there in the background, but not being front and center. But the aim of the book would be to basically show, that you can have a really interesting, fulfilled life without children still. And so that's what I'm doing. As I said to Cecilia, I've always had an idea about wanting to do a screenplay. Haven't gotten very far with that around childlessness, and I don't want any miracle baby at the end. And again, I want to be able to, but I don't want pity and sadness either. I want to just show what we've been talking about here, that there is life after this, and kind of can I say a happy ending in that respect? You know what I mean? But yeah, and I'm sick to death of not being able, not seeing myself reflected in TV or film. I want to see myself and our community up there on the screen. But yeah, big ideas, big ambitions. Let's see. And of course, being down under and being in my language and very much knowing how government works and stuff, I'll have, I believe, a lot more social capital. So I'd quite like to get involved in some stuff around childlessness, particularly in the workplace. I'd really like to raise issues about that and the ability for us to be working part-time, which when I left was an absolute no-go unless you're a parent. The usual crap that we get about, having to take up the slack and not getting any more pay for it, not even being asked, this kind of stuff. And I also met Donna Ward when I was in Melbourne. She's working on a lot of stuff around, it was particularly for single women, aging women, around housing, because we have this housing crisis, Michael, in Australia, and a lot of women are ending up in caravans, etc. I would really like to get involved with her over some of that kind of work as well. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the first thing I'll do when I get off the plane is get a dog, rescue another doggy. We lost ours here during the pandemic, and maybe looking around cancer with kids and pet therapy or hospice work, working with the dying and pets and things like that. Yeah, so just a mix, very similar to Cecilia, a bit of voluntary work, a bit of writing. Don't know about traveling. It's a bit hard from there as far as I can recall. Travel in a different way, I guess. We'll be close to Tasmania and of course close to New Zealand, which will be fantastic. And staying and getting connected with the Aussie bunch now, and working with Penny and Liz with their initiatives, and yeah. Cool.
Well, look, thank you both for joining us. It's been really lovely talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Really, it's great to see you, Janine, as we had that lunch before, and what people don't know is that Janine and Cecilia were very nervous about today, but I knew you'd be great. I knew you'd both be great. So it's been wonderful chatting with you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much
It's
for having
really
us.
a privilege.
Yeah, an absolute honour. And yes, we were nervous Nellies, but there was no reason to be.
You took a risk.
You told us, as you told us.
We took a risk.
Again, you took a risk.
Thanks for listening. We were really inspired by Janine and Cecilia, and we really hope you were too. Now, we'll leave the links to all their work in the show notes, which can be found at our website www.thefullstoppod.com/listen. You can also sign up here to become part of our listeners list so you can keep up to date with what's going on. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and now even Threads. Now, we would love to see you be part of our online community. So if you're interested, don't forget to pop over to the website and click Welcome to our community space, where you can have a look at some of the frequently asked questions and that video to take a peek inside. And lastly, it's important for us to let you know you are not alone.